Ladies and gentlemen, what's happening? Gordy Tamar with Behind the Business on the Boise Beat. And in case you tune in for the first time to this series, we talk shop about all things business, entrepreneurship, news, headlines. We got some headlines that have recently dropped recently here in the city of trees, Treasure Valley. None other than, if you haven't heard, it's big news. Right, Dell? I got Dell King, by the way. What's up, Dell? How you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Yes, very big news.
Yeah,
Going to affect a lot of
huge.
people.
Yeah, no doubt. And we're talking about Intuit. In case you haven't heard, Intuit just announced that they are going to be shutting off their Boise location and Canada, right? There's a Canada location that's going to be impacting some, oh, what was it here? Some crazy number. We're talking 1,500 ish jobs, I believe, is what it was, right? This is something pretty crazy. I'm trying to find the exact number here to get it right. 1,800,
Corporate job.
1,800 jobs.
Wow.
Yeah, huge. 1,800 jobs, of which are obviously going to impact the Eagle campus here near Boise and Edmonton, Canada. And looks like workers are going to be compensated for 16 weeks of pay plus additional 2 weeks for every year they were employed. 6 months of health insurance, kind of your stereotypical, corporate severance package, right? Is kind of what they're getting as an exit. And Intuit, if you're not fully aware of the company, big company, right? They're the company that's behind Credit Karma, MailChimp, TurboTax, QuickBooks, right? And so this is pretty big news. It's going to impact this spot. But the other kind of twist to this is in the headlines that you've been maybe seeing or hearing about, and that's that the shift to AI is where this focus is at. Dale, what does that tell you? And immediately when you hear, hey, all of a sudden you got a big company like this doing a major shift, cutting these jobs, moving towards an AI focus, and they're saying that they're going to replace these jobs that they're cutting with people that are focusing in that sector. But immediately, if people were wondering, hey, this thing is knocking on my doorstep and technology, AI, things are changing in the digital space and it's going to be impacting so many places, which we'll get to in just a second. But when you see a headline like this taking shape, 1,800 jobs, AI coming in as one of the integral parts of that decision making process because of what they're trying to catch up to, um, what would you say? What comes to mind first off?
Well, first off, I was thinking about, where are they in the lineup of the Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies in America, and they are listed 297th on the Fortune 500 list according to
Mm,
AI,
wow.
and as for companies for revenue in 2024, so they're into its revenue increased $14.4 billion, which moved the company up 24 spots on the list. So I think they're gunning for higher in that, obviously.
Hmm.
And with these moves towards AI, we're just going to see it go higher. So with the efficiencies that they can bring in, and I mean I find it interesting because it's they're streamlining jobs. I mean I think about just the basic idea of reporting. If if a supervisor or somebody in a lead position comes in and asks one of the staffers or one of the employees to run a report, where it used to be run the report and get it to me Thursday afternoon, build
Hmm.
this report for me. Now it's I'll see it 4,
Yeah.
and coming in Monday versus Monday to Thursday versus Monday to 4. I mean that's just a kind of conceptual about how AI is speeding things up in a way that if companies don't adjust, if
Right.
companies don't pay attention to that, they and how it's affecting their industry and their competitors and what their competitors are doing to implement, then they're going to be left. There's plenty of businesses that have been left in the wake.
Yeah. We alluded to it not that long ago. We were talking about this reality of somebody being a disruptor in their industry, right? And how if somebody is not willing to go in there with that mindset that they're going to either be impacted by it negatively or
Right.
potentially destroyed, right? And you see a company like this, which to me it signals big news because they're making bold statements and the willingness to go into that direction rather than holding on to what may be working or what they think is working and then suffer on the back end potentially. They're not willing to risk that. So they're kind of making the first chess move is kind of how I look at it, and they're willing to bet on that. So when I see companies like this doing this, I'm like, well, what does that tell other companies, maybe smaller companies, maybe, companies that are 5, 10, 15, 50 employees? Like, what should that be speaking to somebody in that space that's not, a large corporation like this, but witnesses a large company taking these kind of
Right.
leaps?
Right. Well, and AI brings so many advantages to small businesses. I think we're going to see most of the bloodshed will be in the corporations and the people that are jobbers, and I think we're going to see a lot more people move into entrepreneurship and trying to figure new things out. I think about how much you and I use AI in the work that
Mhm.
we do here, doing media and leveraging AI to really serve people well. For the small guy, small player, I think it makes a great amount of sense, and it's almost like a great leveler.
Hmm. Yeah. It makes me think of the people that are being impacted also that are leaving, potentially looking to get maybe rehired because that often happens, right? Where you'll see people get brought back on, but their skill sets aren't obviously needing to be in alignment with what they're after. Like, what should that signal to the typical jobber that has maybe not paid too much attention to leveraging what's taking shape in the tech atmosphere? And it's not just tech, by the way, right? Like you see this stuff influencing the retail sector. We won't get into that just yet either on this conversation because there's other big news happening in the retail side of things, even locally. But you're seeing this stuff impact industries across the board, I think. And so, for the typical jobber, what would you say is some insight into what they should be considering on that next career move if they're moving on, or if they're considering jumping back into the swing of things with the corporation like this?
Well, I think people need to be looking at kind of what gets them up in the morning, right? Looking at things that they've done in the past or industries they've done in the past, but be also studying the trends and the changes that are coming in for the future. And again, it's the business people and professionals that think with a mindset rooted in the 1990s
Hmm.
and even the 2000s are going to really struggle because they just aren't moving. The ability to connect has changed everything, and now
Hmm.
we can come and connect globally instantly. Even right now, we're doing a live and we're broadcasting as far as the internet will take us, which is everywhere,
Right.
anywhere that anybody is, anywhere in the world. And so, you know, are we really considering the impact of that and the importance of that, even if you have a local enterprise, even a small business, for example?
Hmm. Is this a good move for their customer base? I mean, when you see stuff like this taking shape, obviously the focal point of the conversations and the highlights that companies are putting out in the forefront is that, hey, this is going to be in the best interest of our clientele, the people that we serve, the products and services that we put out there to the marketplace is going to serve them well. Do you think that's accurate? Is that true in this case?
I don't think people care unless they start losing the power of the service. You notice they waited until after tax season,
Hmm,
so this isn't their big surge of work right now. And I
that's a good
think
point.
people will stay on the service if the service remains well. I would hope or think that they've actually sorted those things out and they've already made contingency plans for customer service and any kind of hiccups they could have. So
Hmm,
and I think too, it's like if they're cutting 10% of their workforce, what's that number by the way? 1,800 jobs just here, right? Here and in Alberta,
yeah,
here in Boise and Alberta. So
right,
that's 1,800 jobs. I'm sure they have more targeted. These are
right.
going to be, I believe this is my,
Phase one.
yeah, this is phase one. These are going to come in waves.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
so you're going to see where they're at today, down 10%, another 10%, probably another 10% as they figure it out
right.
and keep their customer base because they can't afford to lose that. And they want to increase margins, not shrink the company.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned something just a minute ago. You think that this is going to potentially, at least from a local front, we're talking about the Idaho area, right? In Treasure Valley, etc. The statement you made about, this is going to propel kind of a new wave of what's been happening. You see a whole surge of people jumping into opening small businesses, and you got boomers that, are on the tail end of, checking out and got all these small businesses that need to be continuing to be ran as well. There's opportunity in that as well. What would you say to those people that are maybe, um, well, you know what? Anybody that's been in this environment, I don't know if you've been part of a layoff before, but it can be pretty stressful,
Sure.
and people are wondering what they're going to do next because they put their whole stock and their whole life and sometimes their whole identity into a company that they've been working for
Right.
so many years. And so something like this gets gets under their feet, and it feels like your world's been rocked, And so, but for those that are kind of in the cusp of hearing this news, it's like, I think it's a phenomenal opportunity to say, hey, take the money you're going to get, figure out what you really want to do. I mean, do you really want to be working for a company, a corporation like this? And if you do, fine, cool, go get your money and your
Right.
benefits and all that stuff. But if you don't, like, what would you be passionate about doing? Right? What would you want to go tackle? What would you say to that?
I'd say some well, one, I would think if you're internal in those companies, you saw it coming.
Hmm.
And so I would think that people are already thinking about it, I hope anyways. Um, but I think, really again, going back and evaluating, where have I had the most fun in business? I've done a few things in my lifetime, and I realized for me, the thing that really gets me going is promoting companies and professionals that I believe in, and connecting them with business or with their tribe, so to speak. And so
Hmm.
here I am. This is what I do, and this is a platform in which I can do what I can get excited about, and what's also part of my skill set and my background. And so I would say it's like sit down and do an inventory, have conversations with good friends.
Hmm.
Where did you see me the happiest? Which job? What position? What kind of work did you see me the happiest? And then don't be afraid to step out and go for it. I was just talking on an earlier live about doing that thing that's dread.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
dreaded thing that you're just like, oh, I don't know, the price is too high, or this person's going to be angry, or these things. And I think people intuitively know what to do a lot of times,
Mm.
but we've been told where we can go and how to do it, and we get confined. And so I think people are going to have to challenge their routines and their conventional thinking, and start doing some things that maybe they just haven't done before. And good chances entrepreneurship, and there's plenty of support for brand new entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that with another thing that this sticks out to me is that statement I made earlier about people putting their whole stock into another company, right? And the decades they've invested into there and stuff. It's like, well, when's the last time you placed that same effort and that same stock into building your connections, your network, and
Right.
letting people know who you are as a person, right? If you want to look at yourself as a brand and sharing that online, because so many people don't, they kind of hold back from doing that for various reasons. And it's like, well, if you've been able to do that and you put in some effort into doing that, when that transition does and will take place, because we all go through seasons in life, right? Everything changes eventually. Then
Right.
you're not kind of left in such a shocking moment that you don't know what to do and you're kind of frozen in time because you've, established a network of people. I know personally I've benefited from that over the years. And so I would say now's the time. If you got a little bit of a running start, for anybody that may be listening to this on the odd possibility that, you're one of those impacted by it and you're listening to this, it's like take the severance, take the money that they're offering you, and don't wait too long. Take a little bit of a
Right.
reprieve if you need to and go get your mind right. But don't wait too long. Go out there and use what you have and go put it to work for you so you're not scrambling
Right.
when it comes to that moment there. Speaking of, go ahead, you're gonna say something?
Yeah, I was going to mention, isolation will not help you in these kind of circumstances. Isolation is a killer, and really putting yourself around people you trust. And of course, don't trust everybody, but there's certain people in your life that it's like, even if you haven't had really personal conversations, it's like, do it today, do it now.
Mhm.
Say help, I need help, and people want to help.
Yeah.
And you might be amazed at what they mirror back to you about your greatest strengths and where you could possibly shine in your next step. So, this is a time to have conversations with those in your life that you trust.
Yeah. What do you think is going to be the ripple effect of this with, other businesses in the valley? I mean, how does that typically play out when you see, a large, layoff of some sort taking place in a city? And I don't know, I haven't done the research on the job market currently. I did some stats previously, but I don't remember those off the top of my head. But when I see some stuff like this taking shape, it's like, man, there's a lot of things that are getting shook, a lot of things that are
Right.
rocking in the economic space, in the employment space that sometimes we don't know about or hear about. And so we don't even think they exist. But these things obviously have a ripple effect in other areas as well, right? Because where are those 1,800 people going to go,
Right.
and what happens then? Especially if there's already a gap in maybe needing that workforce. I mean, are you familiar with this particular area when it comes to that, and workforce, and how that would impact other companies that either need people that are coming from this space, or need people in general, or is it just going to create a whole surplus of new people that are unemployed, and 6 months down the road after their severance runs out, they're just strapped and trying to pull
Right.
unemployment.
It'd be interesting to find out, if there's already being some mapping done. I would hope that Intuit's already reached out. Um, you know, I would think that they have. I would give
Yeah,
them the
I would
benefit
think
of the
so
doubt
too.
that they've already reached out to the Regional Workforce Development Council. I mean, everything is right down here in the valley for the whole state, and so they could be doing that already, and actually mapping career opportunities for these people. I don't know what the specific skill sets are that
Hmm.
they're cutting loose, but I would think a lot of it's administrative because that's where AI usually, I mean, right out of the gate will replace people. So, and it's usually the more mundane jobs.
Hmm.
And so while people say, "Oh, that's terrible, they're losing their jobs," it's like, yeah, but they are the mundane jobs. It's
Yeah.
not jobs that are challenging, et cetera. They're fairly mundane. And so I would hope that the Workforce Development Council has already started to work with them. I would be surprised if they hadn't started working with them months ago, to try to map people into other jobs and to have career fairs and just all the things that they do to help small business, larger business connect with an incoming workforce. We got some strange dynamics going on in Boise because we also have a lot of resources being put in the educational system, pushing it towards micron and chip development. And that's a high tech,
Hmm.
specialized work where you don't see people leaving Micron or going to Micron from Intuit.
Right.
I mean, there's just no connection from what I could tell off the, just shoot from the hip here. So um, I think there's trouble to be had. Um, I think people better figure out how to do it on their own. Or, I mean, are those jobs here
Right.
that could replace those Intuit jobs? I don't see that they are.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. No, I get it. That's not to be doom and gloom, or cast a shadow over anything. We're just having a conversation about this because it's definitely
Right.
intriguing and impactful. And so, thanks for your insight, Dell, and sharing that. And those of you tuning in, thanks for jumping on board with this. I want to leave you with a final quote and a thought from the CEO of Intuit, Sasan Goodarzi. He said this in relation to this news. He said, "At a critical moment in our history, because of the AI revolution, um, we must accelerate our innovation and investments in the areas that are most important to our future success." And so I would say, he's obviously looking out as a CEO. He's looking out for the company, and they're doing
Sure.
the moves that they believe they need to do, regardless of how that impacts people. I would say apply that to your own future as well. That would be my encouragement to you as well. If you must accelerate your innovation and investments in the areas that are most important in your future success, then consider what
Very
that
good.
means and what that looks like going forward. So, everybody, thanks for tuning in again. Gordy Tamao on Behind the Business with the Boise Beat. My host, Del King. We'll catch you next time.
All right. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.